Google Earth is a powerful tool that you can use, that you can take, if, for example, if you're a teacher, you can bring it into your own classroom, and it's a really great visual way of exploring the world that we have. Um, Google Earth effectively is a collection of aerial photographs and satellite images that's been captured by Landsat and NASA and even some old aerial photographs taken from planes. And basically what they've done, they've effectively taken these together and stitched it so that we have the whole world that we can look at and explore. What's great about this is when you get into it, you can really explore it very nicely. And zooming into Southern Africa, you can see we've got South Africa over here. Immediately we can see the Okavango Delta that's over here, the Makgadikgadi Pans over there. And what's great about it, you can see, looking at South Africa, you can see that South Africa is actually a drier country. You don't see as much greenery in the satellite images as you do, let's say, the Democratic Republic of Congo or other countries that are along the equator. And the great thing about Google Earth is you can go and explore pretty much any place from an aerial photograph. So let's type in Cape Town as a start. And what happens is you just pop it in and you go down, and then you'll effectively zoom in, and there we can see Cape Town City. And going in, you can see let's just zoom out a little bit. Here's the Cape Fold Mountains over here. It's got the oceans down there, there's the Cape Peninsula. But going in here, you check this sort of like ash-colored area. If we start zooming into what this is, we very quickly realize that this is actually the cities and the suburbs that are around Cape Town. Just give a moment for the system to buffer in. What happens is, as you zoom into an area, the Google Earth is effectively loading up the aerial photographs. And here we can see it looks like a suburb in the area. You can see here it looks like a local school. You've got all the houses over there. And one of the fun things about Google Earth that you can do is if you put your mouse on the sort of the top right area, see this little figure over there, and if you drop this figure down, usually where there's a blue line, it will give you a street view of what this area looks like. So here is a random street in Cape Town, and got no idea exactly the street name. We could find it, but what is nice for the purposes of this exploration is that we get to see you can get a nice sort of streets or a street level view of what's going on in the area that you're looking at. And what's great is that for most countries across the world, you can do these sorts of views. So if you want to explore, for example, India or China or Kazakhstan, areas that you don't really know at all, it's a great way that you can go in and view. And what is nice is that when you're discussing topics of geography or environmental sciences, you can go in and get a good idea of what's going on here. You can see that the environment here has been completely replaced by a suburban area. There have been some trees that have been planted, but you can see there are a lot of impermeable surfaces. We've got the road here, we have the pavements, we have the roofs of the houses and the structures here. And this has implications, for example, with the rain that we've had here in Gauteng. If this area itself in Cape Town suddenly got a lot of rainfall, there's no ground really to absorb the water. So the water here would likely channel along the road here into one of the storm drains. But if the drainage itself isn't well kept or well managed, that this has implications for potential flooding in the area. So just for example, that's to show you what we can do on Google Earth. And you can let's us zoom out there a little bit. All right. But the great thing about Google Earth is that we can explore very interesting and quite fascinating spots around the world. So let's see if we can find Table Mountain. Let's just pop it in there. And I encourage you, while you explore Google Earth and things like this, is try, link it back to your context, or have a look. And if you spend enough time on it and start looking and exploring, there's always something to see. So this is a aerial photograph an aerial view of Table Mountain. And what you can see is you've got Cape Town that it's effectively developed around the area. It's just one of those things that, yes, we can, with human ingenuity, we can go and settle in areas and establish developments and communities and things like that. But one of the challenges of it is that there's a cost element to it, that it's very difficult and very expensive to start building on very steep mountain slopes here. So I just quickly want to take our little man over there, and let's see if you can see Table Mountain from one of the random roads that we've got over here. So go over there, and there we go. You can see Table Mountain there in the distance. One of the great things, and you'll learn this later in the course, about this area around the Table Mountain is it has incredible biodiversity. It's in fact one of the richest biodiversity hotspots in the world, with the fynbos that exist around here. Looking here, we can see Cape Town Harbour. I can see the Cape Town Stadium over there. And this is what I love about Google Earth, is that it very quickly helps you visualize human interaction with the environment and the geography around it. So my question is, what would you think this odd green little lines here are? If we go in and have a look a little bit further, we'll see that there's these odd lines, interspersed with trees over there. There seems to be a main hub over here. And this is something that once you start with Google Earth, and I've shown it to you now, you'll always see. This is in fact a very large golf course that exists in Cape Town. So I thought this is a pretty cool thing to see when looking at Google Earth, because you're looking around at these cities here and in these random green lines there. But now when you explore Google Earth for yourself one day, you will very quickly now notice what a golf course is very quickly in any city environment. All right. But now that we've looked at South Africa a little bit, let's expand our borders a little bit, and let's go to Northern Africa and see what we can see. All right, let's go into there. And I'm not sure if you can immediately tell, but these are the pyramids of Giza in Google. And it's really great. Again, what you can do, you can take a little person, pop them down there, and you can do effectively a little virtual tour of the area around. You can see the pyramids of Giza there, just some of the local tourist things going on there. And now what's interesting about the pyramids of Giza is when you watch movies and you think, it's the pyramids are like in the middle of the desert, it's far from anywhere. But the surprising thing is, if I start zooming out here, you'll notice that the pyramid of Giza is right here next to a very bustling city. When I first discovered this, I was like, that's very interesting. But again, over here you see these weird green lines, this green spot. This is a golf course that's located right next to the pyramids of Giza, which is pretty interesting. And you can just see the enormity of Egypt and the bustling city that it has there. And if I start zooming out, you'll notice this very large green area over here, which is in fact the Nile Delta. Zooming out a little bit, you can see the Nile River going there, spreading out to the Nile Delta. And going into the delta itself, you can see these, these weird brown ashy patches there. Kind of wondering what on earth are these? But you zoom into them and you realize that it's actually a full-on city that exists here in the Nile Delta. Just one of those things that, growing up and you hear about the Nile Delta, you just have images of these rice paddies and things, in the sort of the muddy waters. But they've gone and built, full-on cities with roads and houses and infrastructure and everything here right in the Nile Delta. So that's also a pretty cool thing to see over here. Just zooming out a little bit, just want to indicate one of the cool things that you can also see on Google Earth. You'll notice that worldwide there's this green band that you can see around the middle of the planet over here going around. That is because this is at the equator. It's around this region that the sun's rays hit the Earth's surface directly, and or most directly on the planet. And with that, it allows for a lot of uplift. The sun rays get converted to infrared radiation on the surface that causes the air around it to heat up, and that effectively causing huge uplift. And with this uplift, there's a lot of rainfall, cloud development rainfall that gets associated with it. And because of that huge amount of rainfall, there's these rainforests that exist in Africa. Got the Amazon forest over there. But then, noticing above and below this green belt, you'll see this sort of like dry belts. Got the Sahara Desert here, Karoo Desert over here. The reason for this is that all this air rising up here has to come down somewhere, and this is usually over the South African region over here and the Sahara over there. And with the air coming down, it's a lot more difficult for cloud developments and thus rain to fall, and that's why you'll find these areas are a lot drier. And that's why looking at South Africa, you'll notice that we are actually in a very dry or much drier part of the planet. And that's why here in South Africa, it's very important for us to manage our water resources. But the great thing about South Africa is that in terms of the legislation that we have in protecting our water and our environment, we have some of the best, like world-class environmental laws out there that help manage it. Just the challenge of it is it's difficult to enforce sometimes. All right. So one of the other cool things that we can have a look at with Google Earth is you can view recent images of the world around us. I've gone now to Dubai, and one of the nice things is that we can actually go back in history. There's a little button over here that you can push that allows us to go back a number of years. So just for the sake of this discussion, let's go back to the 1980s. You'll see when the 1980s figure loads that the Palm Islands that were created in Dubai didn't exist. So if we start going forward, let's say to 1992, you'll see 1992, nothing happening over there. Let's go to the 2000s. Still nothing. In my lifetime, by the time I was finishing high school, the Dubai Islands didn't exist. But what the Dubai people started to do is, as part of an investment to bring in tourists to the area, they started to take sand and just take tons and tons and thousands and millions of tons of sand and started to dump it in the ocean so that they could make their own artificial man-made islands, as you can see over here. So just going to fast forward a couple of years there, you can see that these started to develop quite nicely, and then they actually started to make their own little mini Earth as part of attracting foreign investors into the country. And it's very cool to see that you can, over the years, see the development of these. But just wanted to highlight this to you, that you can actually go back and explore the history of an area to some extent. Sometimes the resolution's a little bit more coarse. But what's I just wanted to highlight with this is that, yes, it has helped bring in foreign investors and really revitalize the country. Because previously it was dependent mostly on oil, but they did this just to reinvigorate the tourism industry. They've got Formula One there and things like that. But the challenge is that in doing this, they have altered the natural environment. And the challenge is that the flows of water or the general currents have been disrupted, and there have been environmental impacts of this. But let us, for example, go in and just for the sake of this tour, see what we can see. You can see that for each one of these palms, they've got a lot of homes that people can come in and buy, the rich and the famous. And it's nice that they're right there. They've got their own little beach that they can walk onto. And even up here, they've got some very big grand hotels. And you can see over here, these blue patches are pools. These are massive, massive pools over there. So let's just see what we can see with the little Google man popping over there. And yeah, here's a huge, I think it's a very fancy hotel that one can come visit here. And sitting right there, you can see the ocean, someone there on the yacht. And I think this is what I love about Google Earth, is that you can go and explore places and see things that you wouldn't otherwise, have had the opportunity to see. There's, that's we've now seen a bit of Dubai at little to no cost, apart from the bandwidth that we're spending. So it's actually pretty nifty over here. Some of the other pretty things or pretty cool things that you can see around there, going now to a base here in the United States. Here you can see a very dry golf course immediately. But I start zooming in, and immediately you can see that these are airplanes. And going in closer, you can actually see these are fighter jets. That's like, the 9-year-old boy in me finds this pretty cool that we get to see Air Force Base with these big bombers and planes. Some of them are older than others. And you can just see that around here is the community that likely depends on it to some extent. There's another golf course over there. And this long straight feature over here is the runway for the Air Force Base, which is pretty cool to see. So I encourage you in your own time, or for example, if you're a teacher and you want to show your kids something cool on a Friday afternoon, get to know Google Earth. And the more you look into it, the more comfortable you'll get and the more you'll learn to observe. For example, you can see over here is a fluvial or river system that flows into the communities themselves. All right. Just wanted to show you one other interesting thing that I came across once. So going into this sort of area over here, nothing really to see. I'd be curious to know, do you know what these round features are? If you go in, you'll notice that it looks like a lot of vegetation. It's got these symmetrical lines. This is what they call pivot irrigation. You see it sometimes when you're driving down to KZN or Eastern Cape. The farmers will have these systems which will slowly go around and water the wheat or whatever it is that is grown there. All right, so now we're going to quickly have a look and see what can we see over here. What I'm going to do, keep an eye on this location over here, but I'm going to go back in time and let me know if you see something interesting. As you can see, it looks like some sort of a dirt track over there. Going back a little bit more. Nothing to see. You can see not too much has changed in this area over here. But then, boom, someone went and drew a KFC sign here on the ground. And these are some of the surprising things that you can find here on Google Earth. Now, what I encourage you to do is just to go and type in your own home location and see what your home looks like from above. See what it looks like. And the great thing about Google Earth is that there's just so much to see and explore and do. And I highly recommend that you just take some time and explore it for yourself.